turn a center stable to revival tent. It's a hell of a place to be heaven sent. It's Gainesville bound for me.
So, how did we end up here? It was January 2002, and I had just moved to Gainesville with Stacy, my then girlfriend, now wife. When I left South Florida, I couldn't force myself to reveal to my coworkers at Guitar Center in Hallandale that I was going to law school. So I said I was moving to Gainesville for our band. We had been playing around South Florida for about a year, and were going to make a move to a better music town. While it sounded like an ambitious answer to Destiny's call, it wasn't true. Still, the possibility of moving to a new place to broaden our musical aspirations stuck in the back of my head. When I say a, quote, better music town, unquote, I was exclusively referring to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I don't have a punk rock bone in my body. I knew nothing of Gainesville's punk history. My exposure to ska began and stopped at Real Big Fish. I just knew Gainesville was a town that had a law school and a vet school, and that's where we'd be spending the next few years. At first, we hated it. We hated everything about it, from the stupid hipster takes on burritos to the seemingly barren wasteland of culture. We made the best of it, but felt all the while that we'd be leaving as soon as we could. Given that 2 members of our band were still in South Florida, we weren't really looking to play. So how did we find ourselves looking for our first gig? During the summer of 2002, I was required to take 2 classes that inexplicably ended at 10:30 in the morning. Law students were also required to stay focused on their studies and were prohibited from working during the first year. So I spent the bulk of these days by myself in Camelot Apartments on the corner of 2nd Avenue and 34th Street while Stacy worked full-time. I was bored out of my mind. One morning, in the split second between classes ending and the ensuing din of bags being packed up to leave, a kindred soul yelled, "Does anyone here play the drums?" I recognized the despair in his voice. He also hated law school and was going out of his mind with boredom and a desire to play music in a band. We became fast friends. Now after class, I'd go to his house and he'd play me his half-written songs. I'd help him finish them, and before you knew it, we had a dozen songs. We roped in another law school friend on guitar and found a PA system. The only problem was that the 3 of us comprised the entirety of the law school well of musical talent, and no drummers were to be found. As the fates would have it, my brother Travis, still in college in Miami, came up for a 2-week summer visit, and with that, our drummer problem was solved. For some inexplicable reason, we decided we needed to book a gig for this barely formed, totally unrehearsed band. I started calling the handful of bars I knew had shows. Not a single taker. Keep in mind that Gainesville in the summertime, especially back in the early aughts, was a literal ghost town. While booking an unknown band was super low risk, no one would. Remember, there wasn't a web presence for venues back then. You had to call and find out who the booking person was and when they'd be working. Then you'd have to call back until you got them. Many times. When you eventually got them on the phone, they wouldn't be booking as far as you wanted to. So you'd have to call back. Again, and again, and again. It was an anxious situation that only increased with each call. After unsuccessfully calling several places, I called the Mellow Mushroom on the corner of Southwest 12th Street and University Avenue. I learned that the owner was a young guy named Dio. I called and called until I got Dio on the phone. It wasn't until I dropped the heavy negotiation card of, "We'll play for free," that he relented, and that's how I secured my first Gainesville booking. Now, the Mellow Mushroom wasn't a venue. It was what I would call an unpopular chain of pizza restaurants housed in a building that clearly hosted half a dozen other restaurants, as the unintentional mosaic wall tile showed. They didn't even have a stage, but they did have a patio where we would play. Unbeknownst to us when we booked the show, destiny decreed that our old South Florida drummer would be passing through Gainesville the day before the gig while on an extended road trip. It didn't take much persuading to convince him to stay an extra night to reunite. We hadn't played together since December of '01, but we enthusiastically joined the bill. As the mid-July summer sun began to set, we took the patio and played our asses off for the entire law school class, about 200 people, for what felt like 5 hours. Psyched about the turnout, Dio ended up paying us $200, comping our pizza, and asking us back for more dates. As we were now clearly an established band, I set off trying to book a full fall lineup. The only problem was we could only book the Mellow Mushroom.